Welcome back to Kingston Now. I'm Jimmy Buff, and we're joined by Hayes Llewellyn, the board president of Friends of Historic Kingston, and we're going to talk about loving your older home and historic houses here in Kingston. And we'll start with yours, Hayes. This is a beautiful house.
Thank you very much for coming. It's a great house. We're very lucky to have the house. It was always been a much loved house, so we kind of start off with a nice basis. It was built in the 1840s as a typical Greek Revival house without the portico in the front, and then in the 1850s, the 2 blocks away, the Methodist Church was torn down. Our pillars were the original pillars of the Methodist Church. So then the front porch was rebuilt. And originally the house was a 4-room house, and what's now the side wing of the house was the original kitchen. And in the 1890s, it was added and expanded.
So since the 1840s and now that you own the house, how much has been done to restore it to this incredible shape that it's in?
Well, we were very lucky because in the 1960s, Flossie Pratt lived here, and she actually used to own the lumber yard for Herzog's now, which Herzog's now owns. And she hired Fred Johnston, who is actually the benefactor of the Johnston Museum in Kingston, which is one of our properties. And Fred worked with Flossie for 2 years to renovate and restore the house. So we were very fortunate that was done prior to our moving here, and then the woman that lived in the house for 20 years before we moved here basically held it in time. So the interior, although dated, basically was fine. The exterior, she fortunately had all the placards taken off the house and had them all completely stripped and put them back on. So all that was taken care of. So we had a bit of an upper leg a little bit on the restoration, although very dated.
The city of Kingston is home to so many beautiful old homes, some historic, some just beautiful and old. And Friends of Historic Kingston has a pamphlet out called 7 Ways to Love Your Older Home. Can you tell me about that?
You know, we were very lucky that we were able to get a CLG grant to do this pamphlet, and Suzanne Cahill was instrumental in helping us with this project. And what it basically is a guideline to the 7 ways that when you purchase an old house, a lot of people come to us when they buy an old house, they say, oh, what should we do? This pamphlet kind of provides a simple guideline, nothing too complicated, no restricted issues that you have to follow. It points out that one thing you might want to do when you purchase your house is you might want to research the style of your house, which you can do these days on the internet. The Kingston Library has a wonderful preservation wing that they have a history of most of the houses in town. You also can go to the county records department. They have a lot of the records, census records on the houses in Kingston, and the maps, which also, a lot of that information actually tells you the details of the house, how large the house was at the time. So that is a good guideline as well. One thing we also suggest is when you buy your house, you think about painting the house and think about historic colors. And a lot of people will put off by that, but actually if you Google the style of your house, say it's Victorian, you can find a list of various colors and various things, and you can make that work for yours. And one thing we always stress too is that a lot of people are a little reluctant, especially with things like this, when you have like a rotten architectural element, which just happened to land in my lap today. They're a little put off by the fact, well, this has fallen off, and I really don't want to spend the money to do it. But in the Hudson Valley, we're very lucky because we have a lot of craftspeople, a lot of carpenters, and they're very willing to work with you. And it also helps if you develop a maintenance plan for your house. When you buy it, you think, well, this year I'll do this, next year I'll do that, and then that way it's not such an overwhelming task. And then also, a lot of people, we've had a lot of questions lately about doorways.
Yeah, it's funny because the pamphlet is really simple things.
Yeah.
Like if someone's watching this and thinking, well, I don't know if I can restore an old house,
Exactly.
It's really not that, the suggestions you make aren't that complex, like take care of your doorway.
Well, the thing about it, a lot of people, question the doorway but the door is the most important part of your house. It's what everyone sees when they come to your house. It's what you see when you go out of your house. And if you're getting ready to sell your house, that's one of the first things that has curb appeal to it. And in Kingston, we're lucky because a lot of the houses actually have Dutch doors. There's a lot of beautiful Victorian doors of inlay wood with beautiful glass panels. Ours is a little simple because it's a Greek Revival. And also, a lot of the houses in Kingston have very significant historic door knockers. Someone pointed this out to me recently, and I've been walking around town looking at people's door knockers. There's one down the street on Wall Street that's actually a foot. which is kind of amusing, I think.
Not 12 inches long, but an actual human foot.
It's a door knocker, and
Right,
the bottom, and the bottom of the door knocker is a bronze foot.
That's amazing.
So
how many houses in Kingston would you say are ripe for this process?
Well, you know, it's funny because the people get so focused upon the 18th century stone houses, but we have such a good collection of houses because literally in Kingston, it's like walking through an architectural journal of the United States, because you begin in the 18th century and you end in the mid-20th century. So there are a nice selection of Victorian houses, a nice selection of federal houses. I mean, Fair Street, for example, is a perfect example. You begin with an 18th century house and you end in a 1960s house. So each of those houses have their own significance. People always think that it has to be a house of historical significance, but really not necessarily, because all older homes have their own characteristics that are unique.
One of the things people are going to ask is, how much does restoring a house or taking care of an older house cost? Is this going to cost me more than just throwing up some vinyl siding?
Well, we prefer you not throw up your vinyl siding. One of the new trends that we've noticed with several of our personal friends and with some who have come to the Friends of Historic Kingston is that they are taking off the vinyl siding, sometimes in sections, year by year, and having it replaced with the original clapboards, which is a little pricey, but in the end, you know, it also helps defeat termites and other bugs that often get behind the vinyl siding. There's a lot of issues that people don't really realize about having vinyl siding on your house. It can actually compromise the structure itself. And as far as pricing in buying an older home, I mean, these days the market is so affordable in Kingston, and you just have to do it. You have to really look like you do anything else. You just have to make a cyclical plan of what you want to do with your restoration. And
in the pamphlet, you also point out that occasionally there's grant money available.
There is grant money available. These days that fluctuates a little bit due to various economic factors. But if you contact the Preservation League of New York or the State Historical Society, they always have that information ready for you on their website, and they're very helpful.
If people want to find out more about this, they can go to your website, which is?
They can go to our Friends of Historic Kingston website, which is FHOK.org, or they can also contact the Friends of Historic Kingston. The museum's open from 11 to 4 on Fridays and Saturdays, or they can send us an email from the website.
Terrific. Thanks, Hayes.
Thank you very much.
That's it for this week's show. We'd like to thank Ira Fussfeld, the publisher emeritus of the Daily Freeman. You can read his blog at thedailyfreeman.com. And you can watch all of our shows. They're archived on our YouTube channel. You can find that link on our Facebook page. For Kingston Now, I'm Jimmy Buff. We'll see you next time.